So now I'll take you back to the presentation with Simeon Katzov and I'm taking questions from the audience and look forward to discussing with you on Facebook.
Okay, guys, I'm sure this presentation has sparked some questions. So if you want to ask Steven anything, if you're just starting out, laying out your content platform, if you have any questions, how to get started, you can bring them on now. And if not, I have a question myself.
Sure.
Obviously, you enjoy a huge pool of content right now. You enjoy the snowball effect. That's how you've built a monopoly within your niche. But what is the one thing you would focus if you would start from the very beginning? You're all by yourself. You don't have that huge team producing the content.
Yeah. Within intelligent content marketing, there's two plays. You've got the sort of the long-term, let's build a content platform play, which builds over time. And today you've got basically the direct response marketing play. Now, when we started this 6 years ago, there was no ability to engage in a direct response marketing play because the technology that we needed and the sort of intellectual nous that went into structuring a technology that would deliver seamlessly on a direct response marketing play wasn't available. So we had to incrementally grow over time. But now there is a technology called ClickFunnels that for basically software as a service costs, they've encapsulated the total capability to have a direct response marketing capability. So you can produce a piece of content for your content platform that's going to serve the basis of a monopoly over time. You can use that content strategically to basically go out and buy revenue. And that's really easy to do now. So you can work to build a monopoly by starting off with limited resources, investing in a direct response marketing initiative in relation to content that's going to create the opportunity to have relationships with people, and use the money that you earn there to invest into content and build your content platform out in that fashion.
Okay. And is there any structure you would follow if you would start with the content platform from the very beginning? What are the essential pieces for such a strategy to be effective and successful?
Well, you have to define your taxonomy, right? So you think about your niche and you say, right, what do I know about this niche? I'm going to write everything down that I know about this niche. And once I've written everything down that I know about this niche, I'm going to say to myself, well, what kind of problems do people have that, you can use the knowledge that you have about this niche, and then how can you deliver your material in such a way so it's structured in a fashion so that when people come across it, they don't have to get intellectually engaged in it, they just have to sort of DIY guide it, right? And take the piece out and follow the arrows type of stuff. So that sort of taxonomy should be, your first mission, and then ask yourself what are the top 100 questions that anybody ever asks you about your niche, and then come up with answers to those questions and produce your content around that basis. That's the thing to do first.
Okay. And I know you like to stay away from tactical stuff.
Yeah.
Try to show the big picture. But from your experience, is there any type of content that all the platforms favor, meaning Google, Facebook, any type of content that performs better than the rest? Or that really depends on your niche?
It depends on the question that you're answering. Because, what performs well as content, the ultimate metric is how many people are being exposed to it, right?
Okay, yeah.
So you can produce a piece of content that answers a question in any number of ways, right? An infographic, you can do it in a podcast or a video, write whatever you need to write. It's not that sort of, complicated to do, and the content that you design, as long as it's sort of interesting, sort of visually to look at, and it doesn't overwhelm you with stuff, doesn't really matter about that. What's ultimately important as regards, what it means is what question does it answer, and how relevant is the answer that you put out there, and is it structured in such a way so that the widest number of people can get access to that. That's where the real focus is on producing content, I feel.
Okay. And also in the presentation earlier on, you touched upon that an industrial economy business such as Coca-Cola couldn't benefit from a content strategy. So what if you have a industrial type of business, meaning that you're producing, mass products, and you want to add this content strategy on top of your business? Is that how it's going to work, or how you can go about it?
Well, it just seems to me, right, that if you've got something to sell,
Okay.
right, you have to understand the psycho-emotional dynamics of the party that you're wishing to sell it to, and then look past the idea of selling and say, right, you know, what is their problem and what value can I deliver to at least get their engagement and their attention, and then ensure that whatever it is that you sell accords with the best possible solution that they can receive in their hands is. So you kind of need to know in advance, you know, what it is that you sell, right? And then if you know what you sell, then what results in terms of that value exchange is just a natural result of the dynamics of the connection economy working in the way that it does, and us as human beings interacting with, you know, material that's all around us in the connection economy.
Okay. And you also said that you put all the content out there for free,
Yeah.
meaning that the people can solve their problems.
Yeah.
But how you go about getting these customers into paying customers, meaning the ones that are browsing your website and they have all their answers? Why would they ever need your services?
Okay. So the thing to appreciate about that question is that there are two types of customers for an immigration service. In fact, I think there's two types of customers for anything. There's those that want to pay and those that don't want to pay.
Okay.
So it used to be that those that don't want to pay were a liability in the industrial economy. Today, those people that don't want to pay are actually a much bigger asset than those people who do want to pay, because it's those people who don't want to pay that drive the generation of the tribe and the popularity of that sync on the internet with all of that stuff. And that's the equity in the business, right? The money that comes out of, you know, all of that activity is really just those people who want to pay because they're ultimately buying what it is that we're selling, and what we're selling is peace of mind. And they can't get peace of mind by consuming our content and doing it themselves. Certain people can't anyway. But those people who have decided, now I now know that this involves a lot of work, I now understand what my problem is, I've got a few issues associated with that, I would much rather give this money to this gentleman and to this organisation who are saying they can make this problem go away. Oh, and by the way, if they don't make the problem go away, they're going to not only return my money, they're going to give me double their money.
So by having that irresistible offer.
Yeah, so it's the constituent elements of content marketing, intelligent content marketing, that creates the conditions where there doesn't have to be a conversation about whether I'm going to help you or not. There is, you know, the practical conversation about, yes, would you take care of it? Yes, I will, and this is what it costs and what have you. But there's no effort to try and move anybody's position.
Okay.
You know.
And another tactical question: when you're starting out, how often should you put content out there? I know you do that several times a week. When you're starting out, ideally.
Well, the New York Times bought a content platform about 18 months ago for $30 million US, and they had less than 1,000 pages on that website. So I think you need to be producing content as fast as you possibly can. I mean, you don't have to go crazy on it. You know, for me, when I started out, I knew that I wanted to get 500 pieces of content down immediately. Because without 500 pieces of content, I just didn't have the confidence that this was going to work. I didn't have that much time. I didn't have the luxury of time. I needed to generate revenue. So I needed to move fast. But, you know, that's just me. I'm a little bit sort of eccentric like that. I just want to get on with it. I think you can produce a piece of content every day. You can publish a piece of content every day for a year consistently, and then you've got a pretty decent, you know, pool of content that you can work with. But the interesting thing is that it doesn't actually need to take you a great deal of time to produce that content, right? So you've got the Video Chatter 1 hour free gig. So come in that 1 hour, you can speak to camera, showcase your knowledge and expertise. You can produce at least 10 pieces of content in that time, right? So then you take that footage and you can go home to your Windows or your Mac machine and you can post-produce it really cheaply, easily, quickly, and what have you. And then all of a sudden you've now got 10 videos out of what was an hour in the studio and possibly a couple of hours of post-production when you've gotten home. you can then decide that you want to have a conversation with somebody that is also knowledgeable in your niche, and you know that can just be a recorded conversation for a potential podcast, just record it on your iPhone, sit there and talk for an hour, and as long as you're addressing an agenda that is delivering real value to those people that are interested in that material, whatever it may be, then there, you know, you've got perhaps another 10 pieces of content there. And you just produce these every day and publish it over time. Google recognises that you're a consistent publisher, and they start to, you know, give you credit for this subject matter that's clearly materialising because of the taxonomy which they've come to understand. And it's sort of, you know, one step at a time. When I made the decision that I was going to rewrite the Hong Kong Visa Handbook, it was a case of, okay, I know this material, I need to write the book. So I wrote the book, and then once I wrote the book, it was a case of how can I turn this really dry, boring material into something that's visually, you know, worth looking at, and that, you know, within the edge of my own personal competences. And then after that, once that was down, it was just a case of taking every opportunity to get the tribe to ask me questions, and from that I got content I couldn't even think of, I couldn't even dream about it, or personal circumstances, and so that's a ready source of it, and you know the community values that because you make an effort to answer the questions and adds to the content mix. So it's a sort of a self-fulfilling, self-fueled, if you will, sort of material creation endeavour that just doesn't take a lot of effort, a lot of energy at all. And the returns that you get are just endless.
And how do you go about distributing that content? Do you do it on your own platform? You said you use WordPress, but...
Well, yeah. So it's on WordPress, and 75% of our traffic is Google organic.
Okay.
And then we have a normal, so we publish it in all our social media sites, and then when there's an interesting piece of content that I think will really give us an opportunity to widen the tribe in a focused way, then we'll boost a piece of content specifically for that situation. Yeah, but you know, you publish over time, and you become acknowledged by Google for, you know, what you offer. Google gives it to you. It's easy.
So the core of your intelligent content marketing is really answering all the questions that your target audience has, right? So how do you prioritize which questions you should be answering first?
You should think about the problems that underlie the questions, and then ask yourself, can you produce content that will allow those underlying problems to be addressed in a do-it-yourself manner? And produce that content first, because that's kind of, you know, you can identify what those challenges are in advance, right, if you know what the problem is. And that gives you what you need to have a sort of a base platform. And then you can ask yourself, what are the top 100 questions anybody ever asks about what you do? And you can produce content around that. And then simultaneously create a proposition where people will ask you questions, and you then get an opportunity to sort of produce material that's in direct response to what the audience is asking for.
Yeah, so it makes a lot of sense for like immigration or visas, right? Someone could essentially go through all those steps themselves, but what about something that someone's going to buy?
Something is what?
Someone's going to buy like a product. You have a product,
Yeah.
Coca-Cola. Yeah, like they can't really make that themselves, right? Your content strategy isn't going to be to define how to make Coke themselves necessarily.
No, indeed, and I'm not suggesting that this is the panacea to everything. What I'm suggesting is a new way to think about how you can develop your own proposition in your own niche, using the dynamics of the connections economy in your favour. Yeah. I mean, there's different strokes for different folks, right? Industrial economy, it's the same, and if you kind of really understand what's happening in the connection economy, take a step back and you say, well, what are Google doing? What have Google done? You know what they've done. They've mastered that whole area of search, and they're understanding that they're going into, all these other things that are sort of over the horizon for us, and there's no reason for them not to be in it, right? I mean, they've got the resources, they've got the intellectual powerhouse, they know how the web works, so you expect them to go into that stuff. So they're dominating new niches that have yet to be defined, right? Then you've got Facebook, and they've managed that whole social, platform thing. Skype have essentially handled, internet telephony. Uber have done what they've done and what they've done. And Airbnb is doing what they've done. Apple have, taken on the mantle that it's just about the hardware interface, right, between humans and the web. That's what that's all about. So you can come along with ideas like this and apply them to, your knowledge of your niche, and inject these ideas in, and they'll always be different because every niche is different. And you can then go on in your own little way, master your little mini niche and keep everybody out, because over time it's just all going to accrue in your favour. And for us, the industrial economy way of providing an immigration service was basically based on fear and scarcity. But in the connection economy, it's not about fear, it's about relationships, it's about trust. And it's not about scarcity, it's about abundance. So by unlocking, in my instance, the knowledge that I have as to what people's real problems is, which is the paying for peace of mind, then I could just build, using all of these ideas and these techniques, a proposition incrementally. I didn't have a roadmap that said this is what it's going to look like, because I'm not that smart. But incrementally I came to understand how it all worked, right, through trial and error. And there's a couple of pieces extra to add to this, which we're injecting now as we've learned. And I suspect that this isn't, the last word on how this thing will evolve. But it's not a panacea. It's available as a series of ideas for people to draw down on to determine, whether there's any value in it for them. If nothing else, it provides some kind of explanation for the malaise that exists around content marketing, and the fact that the industrial looks like this and the connection looks like this, and the installed base, the legacy of the industrial economy, which is still 99.999% of all human economic activity. They haven't got a clue what this is all about, because they only view their lives through this prism. And you can't understand what this is all about unless you get involved in it and experience it. And so I talk about secrets. I know stuff about my marketplace that my competitors will never be able to know. Right? And that just gives me such a huge, compelling advantage. And I'll share a little bit of something with you on this. That in the immigration space, what happens, or historically happened, was that small national practices like I have in Hong Kong never get access to the really big clients, because the really big clients are all ultimately the clients of the world's biggest global relocation service companies, and they control the relationship with the client, and they get to choose through their own RFP processes who goes on to be the sort of on-the-ground provider in locations where they may not have that capability themselves. And historically, these big global relocation service firms, what they do is they look to there's 4 or 5 major players that have got a global capability, and they'll just seek to transact with one of those for 3 or 4 years and then put the whole thing open for global RFP again. And that was like that for 25 years. And I used to participate in those kinds of initiatives because of my previous career in this space. Anyway, the problem with that is that it's basically a race to the bottom, because it's commoditization over time. And you can't take a professional service and apply commoditization sort of, pressures to them without there being some sort of pushback. But essentially what's happened is there's been a race to the bottom, and whilst the quality has kind of been maintained, the service, the technical quality has been maintained, clearly because they're lawyers, but the service is shocking because they're just chop shops, right? Anyway, in recognition of that, this year, apparently one of the major global relocation service firms have decided that they want to actually go past that model, and they want to look inside the countries to see what's interesting there, to see if there's any kind of interesting proposition. So that's manna from heaven for me, because I was invited to bid on a piece of work for corporate clients in Hong Kong that I would never be able to win independently because of the dynamic of global relocation services. So I'll get to the point. The point is this, that I put my pricing schedule in, and I have priced it competitively, I've priced it where there's value that will clearly accrue to us, but I've also now included a total free of charge video content production capability to reconfigure how they communicate all of their relationship dynamics with their customers. So I can come in and I can offer that completely free of charge. We've got the resources and the capability to do it, which immediately means that whatever I'm competing with against my competition, it's not going to be about price. The conversation in this piece is going to be about this interesting opportunity that's come along to have a look at a way to do new and interesting things with immigration. And by the way, they themselves are already doing new and interesting things because it's all manifested on the internet, so there's something in this. So there's an opportunity for me to have conversations which I can finally get access to, potentially, the big clients. And that's all come about just because I'm able to sell stuff that my competitors can't.
Yeah, what is your product for intelligentcontentmarketing.com?
There is no product.
So it's just a free resource, essentially.
Ideas that spread win.
So it's like something you do in your spare time because it's something that you're interested in. It's not like someone couldn't hire you to be their mentor to help them with the content marketing. It's more like a community.
One of the problems about being an immigration advisor is that you make your money by owning people's problems.
Yeah.
So I'm 55 soon. I've done enough now, right? Yeah.
Do you accept like user submitted content too?
Eventually, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, we're going to build a tribe around this idea.
Yeah, because it's probably not cheap for you to produce all of this stuff yourself.
Well, hear this, right? The best way to market a business is to tell the story of the business. And really all I'm doing here is telling the story of the business. So right now, the only way I make any money, it's the only way that I've only ever made any money, because everything I turn my hand to that isn't immigration, I've lost all my money and a lot of other people's money at the same time. Right. So if I can document what I'm doing and using the available resources that I've got and tell the story of the Hong Kong Visa Centre, that will mean that we will make more money one way or the other. Because if you can get people's attention today, that's the game, right? The only thing in the connection economy where we've got unlimited information, the only thing that's got any value is people's attention. So ideas that spread win, knowing that the currency of attention means that you've got to put whatever you can out there to get people's attention. Naturally, I would put this stuff out. So does that mean that we will never make any money out of this? I don't know. We're just moving it organically. All I know is that I've now got the capability to tell the story, and I want to tell it because the title of this presentation, I mean, I just think that people are drinking the Kool-Aid, and I don't think they really understand that what they're doing is just rubbish. You know, it just doesn't make any sense.
So my question was, what should Coca-Cola do today?
Well, I don't know, you see. I mean, the issue is, right, Coca-Cola's mission is to have Coca-Cola within reach. That's it, right? And if you think about what they've done, it's brilliant because you could quite reasonably say that Coca-Cola has their product on every single F&B menu or in venue anywhere in the world, right? You know, Coca-Cola is always within reach. I don't think you can take a content strategy and improve that, right? Whatever has worked. You just carry on doing it, but in a way that, you know, achieves those objectives using modern means of communication. I don't think you can, as we've seen, I don't think you can reinvent the world just because someone's got a really good idea that content is a new thing, right? And I said they backstab it, you know, because they realize it's all bullshit.
I think their challenge is whether you reach for the Pepsi or reach for the Coke. Right? Because they're both, in most places you go, they're both available, you know, theoretically, unless, of course, one of them has strong arm the other one out of a region.
But I take that point completely, and so none of the dynamics of how you consume Coca-Cola has changed between the industrial economy and the connection economy. The only dynamics that's changed is how you communicate that, right?
Right.
And you know, Coca-Cola certainly capable of doing joined up thinking. I'm sure they've done joined up thinking. I suppose most of their joined up thinking is to ditch this, right, and say, well, okay, tactically, right, how do we achieve, you know, market share, maintain market share? And I think that's just marketing, right, but now applied in the context of these different communication media.
Yeah, it's just marketing through the web, essentially. Maybe they're solving a lot of different problems that people didn't know they had. You know?
The sugar fix, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was watching a commercial. I saw a Coke commercial the other day, which I've seen several times. And, you know, they're not talking about the way that Coke tastes or the fact that it has lower calories than Pepsi, right? The whole message of the commercial is that the kid who's drinking the Coke gets the girl at the end of the commercial, right? So the problem that they're solving is actually the fact that they're targeting this market of young men who want to get a girl, essentially, and the implied message is that if you're drinking Coca-Cola, then you're going to get the girl, right? So that's the problem that they're solving. And I think they can still tell that story through content marketing online, but it's a lot difficult to connect what someone's going to search in Google to Coke, right?
But what do you mean by content marketing? What do you mean by content marketing?
Well, content marketing in the context of putting more of information marketing, that's what you're talking about, online for your website, right? Providing the information necessary to your target audience.
So the information in that case would be to move the social dynamics of the situation to avoid getting a girl. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what the advertising is that they're doing. Right?
So it's advertising, it's not.
Yeah, I think
so it's advertising.
Right.
Right. Okay. Well, I understand advertising. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're on the same page. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that the problem is you can't connect a search on the web to the messaging that you're trying to do, right? Because your search on the web would be what? How do I get more girls? And Coca-Cola, you're not going to look at Coca-Cola to find that answer.
No,
right?
no, true enough. So in that regard, it's clear that the platform is not Google. The platform is Facebook, right? Yeah.
No, what's very interesting is that Coca-Cola is going after the teenage audience. So their ideal customers 12 to 18. And all of that target demographic consumes content on YouTube. So they're leveraging that platform by strategic collaborations with key influencers that are between that certain age, which have a lot of subscribers, let's say 3, 4, 5 million, and they create co-branded campaigns where the influencers themselves get to do what they enjoy and love, you know, happiness, all about that when it comes to Coke. And they shamelessly plug the product in there, and they pretty much replicate what they do on TV online right now, because when you have a FMSG product, it's all about the eyeballs. So as many as you get, obviously, the better it is.
Yeah, it is a type of content marketing. Everything's under the content marketing umbrella, right? If you do product placement,
Marketing.
If you do product placement, so
Marketing.
What's the key difference? Content marketing is something that you create yourself and you don't.
No, content marketing doesn't exist. You and I can't have the same conversation because we have no definition for content marketing.
Content marketing is marketing.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's just like it's somehow evolved, because the way that the Digital Marketing Institute and Content Marketing Institute, all these platforms use content marketing is in terms of what you produce on the internet, your website.
Well, these guys.
Yeah.
Well, no, these guys. It's the old adage, right? Those who can do, those who can't teach. So the Content Marketing Institute, their entire proposition is to teach people about content marketing. So they're just propagating their own intellectual sort of know-how in this space, if you will, and telling everybody that this is what it's all about, this is a new big thing, and why it works, but actually it doesn't work. You know what we're talking about. Great stuff. Well, we're finished for the evening. Appreciate your attention. Thank you for coming out, giving me the opportunity of an audience to shoot this stuff. I always tell the guys, if there's more than one person, it's an audience for me. And it's not about those people who had other things to do tonight and couldn't show. It's about being able to sort of demonstrate some new thinking and hopefully give you some ideas to go home with. So thanks very much. You can have a chat.